Network broadcast. You can find us on Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, Facebook, and of course YouTube. Get all your NFL news here first.
Here locally in the community, make sure y'all go check out New Cat Body by Jeremy Jones.
Good afternoon, Lions fans, Packers fans, Bears fans. I know you're all out there. I don't care. I love every single one of you. I love the fact you're here. And yes, Yoli, you are one of the top fans for the Huddle Sports Network, and we love you for it. Glad to see you today. Well, I wanted to do the way too early prediction on how this offensive line may shake out for us. Corby Salsdall, he's more of a tackle than he is a guard, but he didn't show us really anything last year good when he subbed in. Well, either I am doing fantastic. Any day I wake up is great. It's a mindset that you have to get yourself into. No matter how bad you feel, it's still a good day to wake up. Ricky Sakat, thank you for being in here as always. We're tier 2 because we don't have a pure number 1. It's a 1A, 1B. I get what they're saying. Like Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs is a clear number 1. You can say honestly in Minnesota, Aaron Jones is a clear number 1 there. But everywhere else, we are in that tier 2 conversation. I agree with it. But as a running back room, we're in tier 1. There's a difference there. You're talking about starting running back, we're tier 2. I'm just being realistic. It's not disrespect. It's being honest about what we have listed as our starter. Right now, our starter is considered David Montgomery. As a room, we're in tier 1. No, it's talking about starting running backs. We're tier 2, which means these are guys good enough to get you 1,000 yards, maybe double digit touchdowns, but they're not a take over the game type of player. Does that make sense how I'm wording it now? But the O-line, we all know who the starters are going to be. It's going to be Decker, Glasgow, Ragnow, Zietler, and Sewell. The backup is where it gets questionable. I've been hearing Manu has been doing a little bit of both, but backing up Sewell and Decker. And I think it's just to see which side he's going to be better suited for in the NFL. But that being said, Dan Skipper is the other one. So forget about Colby Gaynor and forget about Sorsdahl being at tackle. That's not going to happen. It's going to be Manu and Skipper. Wherever Manu settles in the best, Skipper can play both. We've seen it. And he's a good swing tackle, and he's also a good extra receiver. Now the other guards. Coyote Awasika did very well while Graham Glasgow was out. Nobody missed him in that 49ers game. So Sorsdahl, on the other hand, looked bad at guard. And congratulations to Skipper. They're expecting another child. It'll be his third. At his age, still making babies. Center, I have the feeling that Kingsley Eguaquan is going to take over that backup center role. I think we're going to carry the 10 O linemen that is the max allowed. I think we're actually going to have a backup for every position for a change. Nite Mute, he is behind Sorsdahl. And Sorsdahl automatically, with the way Mahogany has showed up and played in OTAs, it's looking like Sorsdahl's behind Mahogany. He's third or fourth on our depth chart. And then you got all the other plethora of UDFAs you can throw names out there, but they're not making this. I don't think they're making the roster. Good morning, Smoking Dad. Good to see you here nice and early. So, yeah, I think that's the 10 offensive linemen we have. Wide receiver room, we already know the top three, and there's no particular order, but I'm going to put Amon-Ra St. Brown, then it's Jamison Williams, DPJ. Then it's Khalif Raymond, Antoine Green, and then it's question mark. Who's number 6, and are we going to carry 6? I think that also depends on how good the backup tight ends play this preseason. If Shane Zylstra comes back to form and is that red zone touchdown guy, we may only carry 5 wide receivers on the roster. And everybody forgets that Jamison Williams was a big part of Alabama's kick return game and why they won a national championship that year. 1 out of every 5 kicks he returned was a touchdown. And with these new rules, they specifically go to a player like Jamison Williams' speed and change of direction strength. And don't forget, he's a willing blocker too. And that can't go understated because he could be that second guy and block for the other one that catches. We could be doing hook and ladder plays because that's what this allows. If you look at the way it's set up, the kicker kicks from where he normally does. At the 40-yard line, you have the kickoff defending team. So 10 guys are there. The kicker's behind everybody. On the or either 40 or 45, I can't remember which, but 5 yards in front of them is the 9 blockers for the 2 receivers. No one can move till the ball is caught by the receiving team. Anybody moves, it's an automatic penalty. It moves it either back or forward. So, and let's not forget about the landing zone of the 20-yard line to the goal line. If the ball fails to land there and it lands short, it automatically comes out to the 35. If it lands in the landing zone and rolls through the end zone without being caught, they're promoting guys to catch the ball. That means it starts on the 20, I believe, as a penalty for not catching the ball and attempting a return. They're trying to bring the return back and make it prominent in the NFL without the problems that the wedge caused in the return game. And if you just kick it through the back of the end zone, it's automatically on the 25. If it goes out of bounds before it reaches the end zone at any point, it's automatically a start on the 40. That's a penalty that hasn't changed. So if you look at it, it has the potential for your starting mark for most teams will be after the 30-yard line. because whoever doesn't receive the ball should be blocking for that said receiver or setting something up in a hook and ladder type of situation. Does anybody disagree with that statement? Basically, they're taking the kicker out of tackling. So going for a big kicker that can tackle isn't that big of a deal anymore. Go for a guy with a big leg and lots of accuracy. Jake Bates. Um, Brad Holmes, if you're watching, sign Jake Bates. I know we got at least 3 weeks before he can sign him, but I want to say it again. Sign Jake Bates. Yeah, and also the new rule where the team has to tell the officials, "Hey, we're doing an onside kick," so he can tell the other team. There is no more blindsided offside kicks. There's no more surprise to it. So that 18% success rate of onside kicks is actually dropping. It's going to be closer to 10%. It's got to be done perfect, or you're not going to get it. Other than that, last night the news broke that Isaiah Buggs mistreated his dogs and has an arrest warrant. He emaciated his dogs, didn't feed or water them for weeks or months. I think they only survived because of rain. We're talking about Rottweilers where they literally had to pick them up to move them because they had no fight in them. And that's down in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Former Steeler, former Lion, now Chief. Got a Super Bowl ring and got stupid. Anybody that mistreats a dog like that, as far as I'm concerned, they're a piece of crap. Somebody said Jacksonville better do something this year. They're moving, and I was like, man, you shows how little you know about how the NFL operates because they announced back in March that they signed a 20-year contract for their new stadium to be built in Jacksonville. They're going nowhere. I hear you, Ricky. It just goes to show you, even though you try to get the guys that have the right mentality, the right fit, the right chemistry, and the good background, they're not always a good person. This is the point of me bringing this story up because we saw it with Cam Sutton. We saw it now with Isaiah Buggs. We saw it with Marvin Hall. You know what's great about you Lions fans? I'm going to give you this.
I love it. You guys are so great.
Yes, Eric Whitson, go Lions all day long. Um, I just watched the presser with Dan Campbell, and they were asking him about who's standing out, who's doing this, and who's doing that. Right. That's exactly my point, Ricky Sakat. No matter how much background checks you do with somebody and character checking, someone can make a mistake. And I still feel Jamison Williams made a mistake, and people were ready to hang him out to dry over it. Last season, the hate that young man received for a rule that 85% of the players, when polled, didn't know was a rule, I think that's a little bit much. It would be different if all the peers knew it. And the only reason why we had the 4 players or 3 players, whatever it was, got caught was because there was 8 uh, sub coaches and personnel that was working for the Lions that were gambling in Allen Park. Everybody forgets about that part. So their player leadership and the player assistants, the ones that are supposed to lead them to better decisions, are who was let go. and suspended and fired over gambling, when they're doing it and they're right there above these rookies that are very impressionable and young guys that are in their second and third years, if they're doing it, doesn't that make it more on that staff than on the players that are young and impressionable? I'm just asking this as a devil's advocate question. I'm not advocating he was right to gamble. I'm saying if leadership is screwing up, how do you expect the players to do it? How do you expect the players not to screw up? That's what I'm getting at. Quintez Cephas probably had the shortest contract of the offseason this year. He was with the Bills for 2 weeks during OTAs and is already cut, proving once again he's awful. He was actually betting on the Alabama football game while we were in week 18 versus the Packers. It was Alabama football. He was not betting on golf. Doesn't matter if he betted on golf, and it doesn't matter if you make a bet on any sport in an NFL facility or while on the road under getting ready for a game. You're not supposed to do it. That's the letter of the law. They finally spelled it out completely, and I'm glad they did it. But no, I think if they're not betting on football whatsoever, the NFL wise, or any team in the NFL or against any player or any of that, it should not matter. And I said this would be an issue as soon as the NFL. Where do I stand on athletes betting? As long as they're not betting on their sport, their team, or any player in the sport of NFL football, I don't give two shits. They're driving FanDuel, which is owned by Fanatics, who is a bad company to begin with. BetMGM, Caesars Casino, Caesars Palace, Four Winds, all these things. Every time you watch anything NFL related, you see all these commercials every 5 seconds. DraftKings, all of this crap. And the fact that the NFL is force feeding it down the fans and their own players and coaches' throats. And yet, like, hey, guess what? Here this is. Just don't do it while you're working. As soon as they went to bed with them, I said it was a bad idea. As soon as they put the Las Vegas Raiders in Las Vegas, as soon as they put Oakland in Vegas, I said, you watch. They will never have a gambling issue because that team will be the most scrutinized of any team in the league because they're right there in the middle of Sin City. And so far, have you heard of one suspension by any player for Oakland? You haven't. You know why? Because those coaches sat there and goes, okay, guys, these are the rules. This is what you're supposed to do. This is what you're not supposed to do. Any of you caught doing it, you're automatically off the team. I guarantee you that's what was said. And it makes sense. They would be the most scrutinized out of all of them. As a matter of fact, the 15% of the league that knew the rules was Las Vegas Raiders and Tom Brady, who was retiring. That's it. That's all that knew the rules. How you doing, Pat? Good to see you, sir. Glad you're here. 10 people watching. Make sure you smash that like button, people. Smash it like Randy Orton doing an RKO on Triple H. Get her done. It helps the algorithm, whether on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. It's so weird seeing my face on a TV. I go back and rewatch the shows sometimes. I'll say it again. I got a face for radio. and I'm not afraid to admit it. I'm so ugly, my dad fed me by slingshot when I was a baby. But Dan Campbell's presser, he said, "You know what? It's really hard to judge in OTAs because nobody's wearing pads. We're out there running around in our pajamas." And they're just playing the game. But what he has seen, he's liked out of most of the players. I'm going to name a few guys that could be odd men out this year. With the way we improved this cornerback room, Kendall Vildor, he's my number 5. Number 4, Isaiah Williams. The more you hear about the other guys showing out and the less you hear about him, the less it looks good he makes the team. I heard good things about Green, Caden Davis, uh, Tre'Quan Smith. When you hear more about those guys than you hear about that one, that's a problem. I'm hearing good thing about James Turner, the kicker out of Michigan. It's looking like he could be our kickoff specialist. He has a knack for landing it in that landing zone, which is huge. I've been hearing good things last couple days about Hooker, who's hit Caden Davis, Tre'Quan Smith with over the shoulder grabs downfield in 7-on-7s in game situations, not just running a route. So that being said, and I'm not saying Hooker should be the starter. I'm saying it's going to be a good situation to have a quarterback like Hooker backing up Goff, just in case, because so far he hasn't had a major injury. Shout out to James Turner. His 2 field goals helped us beat the Buckeyes. Remember when we won by 6, 2 field goals for 40+ yards? Yes. I'm just saying it's looking like he's our kickoff specialist because Badgley couldn't do it. Hell, there was 3 fair catches because of him. Teams with a lot of depth and good talent at those depths may consider that for a second roster spot because nobody realizes how big that landing zone rule is. Because, like I said, if it rolls into the end zone and it landed in the landing zone, it penalizes the receiving team, pinning them back further onto the 20. That's a huge, huge thing. They're trying to make people catch it and return it. If you're scared to return, you won't be on very many rosters after this year. If you boot it through the end zone, it goes out to the 35 or 25, excuse me. There's a lot of penalties for kicking it short, too. Like I said, you kick it short, there isn't a return. It's automatic start on the 35. You kick it out of bounds before the end zone, either side, even if it's rolling, doesn't matter. If it goes out of bounds, it's the 40-yard line because that's that illegal procedure thing. But what this stops the false start. Anybody that moves, it isn't going to be redo the kick. It's going to be a penalty, then redo the kick. That's huge. I think teams are going to start out averaging between the 32 and the 39-yard line for field position with this new return rules. And Detroit fan man, that's a great question. And like I said, your better teams with a lot of depth and good talent from top to bottom. Do I think Justin Field will be a good kick returner? He has the speed to. He has some elusiveness. but yet at the same time, he's prone to fumble. So no, I don't. How you doing, Mr. Dorn? Glad to see you hop out of the woods, come down to talk a little football. I think it's kind of stupid to use Justin Fields as a returner. Last year was the only year he started to look like a quarterback. Thank you, sir. I'm not here to really talk smack, though. The Chicago Bears, they could be good. It depends on if Caleb Williams is a true number one pick that's going to be good, or if he's just like 90% of them that's ever been picked first overall and be a buster. We don't know. And to say he's going to be bad, it, it's more talking smack than anything. But I don't expect him to light it up like CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud was an anomaly last year, but he also was picked 2, not 1. There's been way more top 10 picks at QBs that's been better than the first pick overall. And what's funny is in that 2021 draft when Trevor Lawrence came out, the only quarterback still on their team is Trevor Lawrence, and I think he's the most overrated quarterback in the NFL. Go look at his statistics, compare him to Daniel Jones. They're the same quarterback, just one has a better roster. Way overrated and way overhyped. Yep, I agree, John Dorn. But I'm not going to say that all the teams didn't improve one way or another in our division. It's why I still have us as the second best division in football and a possibility of being the best division in football when all's said and done, because we know how that AFC North is. One year they look like the greatest division in football. The next year they beat up on each other so much and cause so many injuries they fall apart and they fall below whatever the second best team in that conference is. So it's a catch 22 with the AFC North because all those defenses are actually good. It's whether or not the QBs can last the season all the way around. We know Deshaun Watson hasn't been able to the last 2 years, and probably the second most overpaid quarterback around other than Kyler Murray. And you got to lump Daniel Jones in that mix, but all of them make more than Daniel Jones. So I say they're more overpaid. They've done nothing to earn it. Joe Burrow got paid after making his trip to the Super Bowl way too early. If they'd known that they'd only get 13 games over 2 years out of him, I don't think they'd have gave him that 55 million a year. I think we're in the mood. We're coming up on a rude awakening for these overglorified, overpaid contracts. Because once all this big money stops coming in and it's just the TV money again and just concessions and just ticket sales, you're going to have a level off. It won't go up anymore. So they'll have to reset the markets at certain positions, including quarterback. I think it's gone way out of hand. They're going to do it like they did the running backs. Stop offering the max contracts for that position. Start offering the mid-level contract for the high players and just regurgitating players out of college to replace whoever's not performing to standard. I think that's going to be the norm going forward. You're going to see more franchise tags and less second-year contracts. You're going to see the exclusive tag on the really good guys so they can work out a deal to make it feasible that they can keep the team together going forward. Jalen Waddle just got paid 3 years, $84.5 million this morning with 66% of it guaranteed. Uh, I think Justin Fields is the eventual starter for Pittsburgh this season. I don't have any faith in Russell Wilson. He's making 39 million. I think, oh wait, 38 million off of Denver, another 11 million off of Seattle. So he makes 49 million this year. He's on a 1.5 million contract. So he makes 50 million this year. And he's literally in a win-win situation for Pittsburgh. Because if he sucks, they can just cut him and let Justin start. If he's good, let him ride out the season. That's a win-win situation. Can you imagine making 50 million a year and you're only getting paid by the team you're on $1 million? Sign me up for that check. Give me $1 million a week. Good Lord. For 18 weeks of work plus the 3 months of training camps. And in case you guys didn't miss it, or did miss the show last night, or missed Ian Rappaport's live he had Tuesday night on Instagram and Threads, he literally went over because they start talking about the CBA now, even though it doesn't have to be ratified till 2026. They start talking about it now, and that's to get the ball rolling and find out what they want. The NFL wants to go to 18 games, 2 preseason games, do away with OTAs altogether, and just do a ramp up mid-June, starting with training camps. Do more of the team versus team training camps than actual games like we have seen going on since Hard Knocks over the last 3 years in the off season. I like that idea of the no games thing, but they literally said they're doing away with OTAs to stop off-season injuries. And I did this study back, what was it, 2018 or 19 was when they quit doing the two-a-days. And you really look at that, from that point on, soft tissue injuries have jumped up in the NFL by 33%. So working out people even more in the off season, it may stop some off season injuries, but it's going to promote in season injuries, and you're lengthening the regular season games by a week. So that's even less time for your starters to get in game shape because you already don't use them in 3 games. You're not going to use them at all in 2 games. You're just going to see the backups and the people fighting for position spots to finalize your roster. Your starters and backups probably won't even play. And I think it's a damn shame. And then somebody said, "Oh, it's because they're trying to make more money off of tickets." No, they make the exact same. Everybody has bitched for years that you pay the same money for preseason tickets as you do for regular season tickets. A lot of your season ticket holders, they'll give or sell their preseason tickets away cheaper to let other people that don't have a chance to go to games. I think it's a horrible idea to get rid of the OTAs. I I'm dead set against it because that means you don't have that mandatory vet camp just before the draft. You won't have the mandatory rookie camp. This one right here, these 2 weeks were voluntary. I could give 2 craps less about the voluntary OTAs. You could do it that. But I think that vet camp just before the draft is that get into shape. It's less about working out or less about actual practice and more about working out and getting into game shape. And that rookie camp where they come in with the UDFAs and the second year guys and they get a chance to get familiar with the playbook and the team and the coaching staff. I think those 2 camps are very important. And if they do away with them, that's kind of it's going to ruin the early it's already like the first week of season is like the fourth preseason game. So now the first 2 weeks are going to be like preseason games and going to suck more because you saw how the game progressed. The first week was awful, lots of low scoring games, a couple blowouts here and there. The second week, it more evened out, some good games. By the third week, they were rolling. So now you're going to tell me you're going to get 2 weeks of those games that kind of suck at the beginning of the year. Amazon already hates Thursday night football because of how low scoring it is. Camps are for little girls, like Iverson said, practice. Yep, that's different. Basketball's different. They don't wear pads. They don't run around outside. I don't want to hear it. Basketball's for pussies these days, anyways. Bunch of whining, cry ass floppers. And yes, I'm talking about LeBum. And Cat for the Timberwolves is as mentally soft as AD is physically soft for the Lakers. Basketball hasn't been good since they did away with the hand check. I don't feel like Houston is the odd man out. It's Levi on Muzariki. Houston, they're going to bring him back this year because it still costs more to cut him than it does to keep him. Levi in his fourth year is the only one that can clear some cap room. It might be out. The year my fast pitch softball team won the championship, we never had one player throw their arm out or tear any muscles. And you guys practiced a lot, if I remember right, Dad, didn't you, that year? I Not really. It's more of like a wash type of move. He didn't get a lot of money, but he doesn't have a lot of there's a little bit of dead cap on it, so it kind of just washes out. There's only one way we're getting more cap space this year, and that's restructuring Decker or Ragnow. And I don't think they want to restructure Decker. Yep, was because we rented a gym and started practicing in February. I remember that. I think I went with you a couple times when you guys went there in February, where you were working on your guys' fielding skills by throwing the softballs fast against the wall inside, if I remember right, and stuff like that, and running wind sprints. God, I was a kid, but I think I remember that. I think Decker's retiring. He's 33 years old. He's been in the league a while. He came out late. Remember, he was a fifth year. We were only allowed to throw and run on the upstairs track. Yep. But still, practice and conditioning is a huge thing for the body. And the less practice and conditioning you have in a physical sport, especially like football, you are going to have more soft tissue injuries. Strength and conditioning is way more important than they're realizing. And I think that's going to ruin the game. They're trying to blame low hits. You know what? These same hits didn't make ACLs happen years ago unless it was like a crunch hit like the one you saw with Nick Chubb. That was brutal. And it wasn't even intentional. The one guy was just low and on his thigh, and as he slid down, the other guy hit him up high to make sure he fell because that's Nick Chubb is one of those guys where you can think you have him and then you don't. But seeing that knee bend the way it did, that was gruesome. It wasn't as bad as watching like Joe Theismann or Alex Smith get their legs broke. That that was a sickening sound. But it's still all of those types of injuries, they're gruesome to watch. And that's the second time Nick Chubb has had that all three tear. He had it in college and now he's had it in pro. It was the Willis McGahee injury. You guys remember that when he was at Miami. You say it's stupid rule changes, but the NFLPA is the one wanting less practices. Stretching and conditioning is really important. Absolutely. I try to stretch after my show every day before I go to work. And I don't just mean reach up and yawn because I lift tires. I work on cars. It gets old. Tore it up in the natty. Yeah, that was Willis McGahee. Yeah. Was that the Christians and convicts natty? Or Catholics and convicts? I know it was during that. Yes, it was. How'd I know? I just guessed. I couldn't remember when it was. Well, I ate a nice fat cheeseburger with mozzarella cheese and spicy brown mustard, Miracle Whip, just before I got on the show. You know why? Because I can. I was hungry and it looked good and it was yummy. Hey, Reubens are good sandwiches too. I like those. I don't like sauerkraut on a lot of things, but a Reuben, mm, I like corned beef because I'm a corny type of guy. So, what do you guys want to talk about now? I basically went over everything. Um, I prefer the Dinty Moore coleslaw instead of sauerkraut. Do I cover baseball at all? I do watch it. I don't cover baseball much. Um, it's kind of hard to want to be into baseball, especially with the way our team is doing here. When I tore my hamstring when I was 41 is because I wasn't stretching before the game. Um, let's see. I think Tyler Glasgow right now is the strikeouts leader with 95 as of yesterday morning. Um, Luis Ramos, I believe, is the leader in home runs or RBIs, one of the two. Can't remember which. Um, Yesterday's doubleheader was exactly the Tigers. Good game, bad game. You know what the difference was? Tariq Skubal pitched the first game. Paul Skeens pitching the second game. Hands down. Paul Skeens is going to be up. He's the Kenny Powers of Major League Baseball. If you listen to that guy in an interview, he's hilarious. I was expecting to say, "What I do is come out here and mow people down with a 100-mile-an-hour fastball." I was waiting for that to come out of his mouth when I watched his presser the other day. I mean, the guy he's Kenny Powers. He's pounding down without the drugs. I mean, that kid, Shohei Ohtani is having a hell of a year, and he's not even leading the league in home runs. Yeah, and that's the problem. It's gotten better with the pitch clock, but at the same time, the pitch clock is ruining how long pitchers are going in games. I know it's a set amount of time they want them to have, but I think after 3 innings straight of a starter going, they should need to lengthen that clock by 10 seconds after 3 innings, 15 seconds after 5. If they get into 7 innings, they should get a minute between pitches. That way you might actually get somebody going a complete game on a regular basis again. You're not seeing as much as you did a couple years ago. Screwball has a chance, but at the same time, Tariq is probably our most tradable commodity on this team. And Tigers fans don't want to hear this, but if I was Scott Harris, I'd be trading Tariq Skubal for somebody's entire farm system and build this team. Because right now, the way they're playing, they're 3 years out from being relevant already. They're not spending the money like they should. They kept Baez instead of letting him walk on a team option year. Yes, but still, stretching and conditioning prior to the game is important, just as important in baseball as it is to football. Because I think we're gonna do to Screwball like we did with Verlander. We're gonna give him this exorbitant contract. We're gonna get stuck with him as he labors through injuries in the mid part of his year as he's heading into his prime. Uh, and he's gonna be the best thing on a bad team. I will admit it is cool that in the past month we have almost as many double-digit games for our batting as we had for the entire 2023 season. Let that sink in how bad this team was. We only had 5 double-digit scoring games by the offense for the Tigers in 2023. We had 4 in the month of April, or the month of May, excuse me, month of May. May's now. Tomorrow's the last day of May already. We're coming up on, hey, it's the midway point of the year. What are we going to do now? 6 weeks to football, 98 days. Give me football. 98 days until the season begins. I think if the NFLPA wanted to do it right, they wouldn't change the OTAs. They wouldn't change the preseason. And what they would say is, I want 2 bye weeks, one in the first half, one in the one after the trade deadline. Make it a separate window. Instead of it starting week 5, you have it like weeks 3 through 7. And then you have a second set of them, weeks 11 through 15. And then they're done. KC in Baltimore is the opener. Then Friday night, you got the Green Bay Packers traveling to Sao Paulo, Brazil to face off against the Philadelphia Eagles. At 8 p.m. Oh, let's totally fuck up high school football. Great job, NFL. In a stadium where the team that owns it do not allow opposing teams to wear green. It's outlawed in the stadium. I hope they just don't drink bottled water. They drink the tap water and come back with Montezuma's Revenge. Oh wait, that's Mexico, not Brazil. What am I thinking? Yeah, that's really smart. Yeah, 2 green football teams. Hey, James Burgess, what if they come back and one of them goes to the doctor? "Hey, well, you got gonorrhea." So let's see. They're gonna have to do what then? The black jerseys for the Eagles and those throwback blue and yellow prison stripe uniforms for the Packers? Oof. Guys are going to break out the leather helmets. They don't like our team's colors, and all of our helmets have green in them. Oh, yeah, make sure those tax papers you don't want are gone. Absolutely, James Burgess. Man, it is so great to be talking football. I can't wait for the season to start. I can't wait for some hitting to be going on and actually get some film worth watching because this powder puff football that they play at the OTAs really annoys me. 7-on-7, no contact. It's not football. It's very disturbing. Yes, if I remember right, that's the one you get the silver billet for, and yes, that does slow you down. The UFL has kept me busy. You know what keeps me busy? Even on my days off, I'm looking up stuff for the show because I gotta have some content to be able to talk to you guys and make some sense. And I try to go only to DetroitLions.com, Tim 20-man page, Jeff Risden, and Dave Burkett. Detroit WNBA coming back. Yeah, that's some news. Yeah, great. Another team that nobody will watch. Fantastic. Uh, I don't know why Tom Gores doesn't say, Monty, get the hell out of here and bring Bill Lambier to coach this team. He did a great job coaching the Shock. I think he'd be great in the NBA too. He has that mentality where you're going to do it right. We're not going to lose. I'm so tired of the Pistons sucking. She's bringing something, Orlando. That's all I got to say. Her skit on SNL was pretty funny. Well, it is that time of the show where we get to talk about our favorite thing. FTP. Put it in the chat, people. We all know it. We love it. We know how much you guys hate him, except for Yoli. Angel Reese is being an excitement too, but not exactly in a good way there, Orlando. It's FTP. For the people. From the people. To fudge the Packers, Mackinac style. Amen, Braylon. Just I'm live on Roku. I can't say it. Davey, yes. FTP and TCB. Yes. Fudge the Chicago Bears too. I'd say something bad about the Vikings, but I think Skull is going to be another acronym for this season too. Still keep on losing. Uh, it's funny. As much smack as we talk about the Bears and the Vikings, Both of them have better records than the Packers against us since Dan Campbell has been here. The team we show up against the most is the Packers. The team we show up against the least is the Chicago Bears. And I don't get it. And of course, we got my paying sponsor, my buddy up there in Saginaw, Gloss Negron, the best window tinner for 2023 and up for the award again this year in 2024. 409 Hamilton Street, 989-443-9240 is the number to call to get your appointment to schedule your window tinning or car detailing. He does it all. Makes those whips look fantastic, like this 300 C-Class, the Audi SUV, or the Maserati. The first two, I was there when he did it. Yes, Panthers beat the Stallions, then they get a break before the next game. They need to beat them. Absolutely. And just think, by June 16th, we'll know if the Lions have enough cap room to be able to sign Jake Bates or not. God, I hope so. And last but not least, it's my place of employment, Brandon's Tire Service at the corner of South Grand Traverse and West Atherton Road. 810-233-8230 is the number to call to get a quote for your new tires and get a great price from either George, Red, or myself. Or stop on in if you need some tires to get you by, because we sell used tires too, starting at $40 and up. If you need a set of tires, mention this ad. Whether used or new, get $10 off of your set. Please stop in. I'm there 2 to 7, Tuesday through Saturday, unless I'm not there. I think we can get away with the first year doing a futures contract because we don't have a lot left. Everybody thinks we got a lot left. We really don't, because we still don't know the status of the Sutton's voiding of contract. So that they already added that 10.5 in. We didn't pay him because that was a bonus that was being given. His contract is still 12.5, and there's like an $8.5 million dead cap hit with it. If it isn't voided, we're getting sacked with that 21.5. That was the upfront bonus that was stretched out, where they, whatever that money is that they stretch out and pay over time so it doesn't hurt the cap. That's what that money was. He didn't get it because he violated his contract. It doesn't mean the NFL has to void it. So I think it'll be a futures contract like we did 2 years in a row with Jack Fox, where we'll give him what he wants per year, but it's going to be stretched out over a 3 to 4 year span. And we kind of did that with Betts too, and everybody forgets this. Everybody's looking at the fact that he only makes $975,000 this year. He makes that for 3 years for this 1 year of play. The fact he's a $2.7 million player should say that he might be a starter to you. Everybody forgets that he was a futures contract. But thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Tune in tomorrow, because I go live at noon and also again at 9 p.m. And don't forget to check out that Roku app. It's pretty cool. There's some good shows on there. Prim and Proper is a Panther show led by a woman. But here's the outro.
Network broadcast. You can find us on Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, Facebook, and of course YouTube. Get all your NFL news here first.